I'll walk it in. Not so much. You need an extra seat that's there. Just gotta be careful with the camera.
Yep. Do I show up in the
This council meeting is called to order in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Law. This meeting of November 21st, 2022 was included in the list of meetings published in the Courier News and Star Ledger. Notice of this meeting was also placed on the bulletin board at Borough Hall. In addition, a copy of this notice is available to the public, and a copy of the statement shall be included in the minutes of this meeting. Mayor Dennis Sullivan.
Here.
Council members, Granville Brady.
Here.
Tom Mitchell is excused this evening. Gina Stravick.
Here.
Roger Vroom.
Here.
Fred Weed.
Here.
Randy Pitts.
Here. Well, pleased to be joined tonight by Troop 84, and they will lead us in the pledge. And I would ask the audience to please remain standing after the pledge for 2 moments of silence. So, Troop 84.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Several years ago, when I became mayor, I thought it important to offer moments of silence for members of our community who passed away. And tonight we have 2 fine women. First of whom is Catherine Malitsky, known as Kitty. She passed away 5 days before her 102nd birthday. And in that 102 years, she certainly served our community well. She was a graduate of Somerville High School. She owned a beauty salon here in town. She was a den mother of one of our troops. I don't know which troop, but it could have been Troop 84. She was a past president of the Somerville PTA. And with her husband, she founded Somerville Little League Baseball. And not the least of which, she donated 3,500 hours of volunteer work to the medical center. She filled her 102 years with much service to the community. I'd like to offer a moment of silence for Catherine Kitty Malitsky. Our second person to honor tonight, last name familiar to most of us that have been in town even a short while, Blanche Bergen Stiers. Born in Belmead, but graduated from Somerville High School. She raised all 7 of her kids here in Somerville, and the Stiers family is well known for their professional and volunteer efforts within the town. Blanche leaves behind 7 siblings, 20 grandchildren, and 10 great-grandchildren. Moment of silence for Blanche Bergen Stiers. Thank you. You may be seated. Before we begin, I just want to welcome again Troop 84, and I ask one of the scouts to just very briefly tell us the name of the badge you're working on, which will be fulfilled in part by your attendance tonight. So if I have a volunteer to step up, otherwise I'll choose a volunteer.
Hello.
Good evening.
I'm James Rockanova. And we're here from Troop 84, and we're doing citizenship in the community.
Thank you. Well, I'll try to explain as we go through the meeting, what's happening, and then there'll be an opportunity during the public session for you to ask questions as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Got a set of minutes from November 7th. Motion.
So moved. Second.
Council members Granville Brady,
Yes.
Gina Stravic,
Yes.
Roger Vroom,
Yes.
Fred Weed,
Yes.
Randy Pitts.
Yes. We have several departmental reports and notices as listed. We'll move ahead, changing the agenda slightly. Number 7 is committee reports. And for the scouts in attendance, each of the borough council people at the table with me is in charge of a specific department within the borough, whether it be police, fire, public works, buildings, finance, or personnel. And during the public meetings, I call on each council person to give us just a quick summary of activities within their department. Each year, each council person is assigned one department to be the head liaison, and a second council person would be a second to that committee in case the lead person could not be available. So I will start to my far left with Councilman Groom, who is our fire commissioner this year.
Just a reminder as we get into the colder weather season, please make sure for those of us that use natural gas as our main heating source, it's always a good idea to have your boilers and hot water heater checked over as the season starts up. This is about the time when we get a lot of carbon monoxide due to smell of natural gas calls with the fire department. So again, it's always good to check out and make sure that your systems are running properly and that you don't have to make that phone call, because that's the one phone call no one really wants to make. The other piece about that is make sure that you have a carbon monoxide detector in proximity to your heating apparatus to make sure that, again, should something fail on your boiler, that the carbon monoxide detector is there, and that will certainly help. And again, my usual plug, as we're getting closer to the holiday season at this point, please make sure no flames are left unattended, and also to make sure that your smoke detectors are batteries are checked and ready to go for the holiday season as we get close to leaving and going about from place to place, having that smoke detector where you live, and obviously any place you go to visit, always check that as well. That way you know that you're safe and your family's safe. That's it for me.
Thank you. My far right is Councilman Brady. Councilman Brady is in charge of, Mr. Brady, I'll turn the floor to you.
Couple of things. First of all, actually I'm a liaison to Public Works, and I'm also involved in the Finance Department, and along with Councilman Weed. One of the most exciting things that happened in this election was the passage of the sewer referendum, and I promised not to promote it anymore at the last meeting, so I won't. Somerville voters overwhelmingly passed the measure, with 74% voting to sell the sewers to the New Jersey American Water Company. For our young guests, what we do is we own the sewage system, and we don't know how we're going to maintain it much longer because it costs a lot of money to keep things flowing. And so now the New Jersey American Water Company offered us $7 million to buy it. And they're also going to put another $9.6 million worth of improvements in the sewers. So it was kind of a deal that we couldn't pass up. So the mayor and council wants to thank all the voters who supported the measure, who came out that day. And we are moving ahead with the sale documents and anticipate a closing sometime during the last half of 2023. Finally, the budget meetings are moving along. We had a budget meeting with the fire department, but we can't determine what the final figures are going to be because the state has not provided us with the actual cost and health benefits. It's somewhere around 20 to 22%. That will be the increase in health benefits that we're going to have to pay out of our taxes. There are a lot of figures flying around, but until we have official word, I can't tell you what the impact will be on the 2023 budget. We will probably not be meeting with the Finance Committee until sometime after the holidays. So that's all I have, Your Honor.
And following up that comment, I'm going to ask the scouts later to estimate how much money they think it takes to run the town of Somerville. We have 12,000 people approximately living here, and I'll ask you at some point later in the meeting if you know or have an estimate as to what it costs, not to run the schools, just to run the town, because the school board has their own budget. So we don't mix the two. So I'll ask you later if you have any idea. I'm curious to see how close you get to the real number. Councilman Stroud.
Welcome to Troop 84. I'm a proud mom of an Eagle Scout from your troop, so welcome and welcome to the rest of the public. I serve on the Personnel Committee and the Environmental Commission. So the Personnel Committee, along with Councilman Pitts, we help solve staff issues. That's the easiest way to put that. And then on the Environmental Commission, it's a very active commission that works on behalf of environmental policy and improvements related to nature and the environment, mainly around trees. So many of you may have seen the new trees that were planted last month at Let Park, 40 new trees. That was spearheaded through the Environmental Commission. They also, if anybody's been down to the community garden, that was a new project they started this year, and it's ongoing, and they're working on policies and setting it up for next year as well. And then they also try to do public education in the Environmental Commission, so their Facebook page is pretty active, and right now there's things up there about composting for leaf care, get rid, instead of putting everything in the street, to use it to improve your soils and so on. So that's the role of the Environmental Commission, and I serve to bring their issues to town council. So again, welcome.
Thank you. I'll introduce Councilman Weed, and you may have noticed during the flag salute that Councilman Weed, and I'll let him explain what he did.
Yes, so I was technically in violation. And if anyone knows the reason why, I saluted the flag like this, but I was not in uniform. Technically, I'm supposed to be in uniform.
We'll discuss that after the meeting, Councilman.
Well, I felt comfortable since Councilman Mitchell's not here. He always reprimands me when I do that, but I did break a violation. However, thank you for Troop 84 coming out here. I went through this merit badge myself many years ago, probably most likely in this same room. But some of the committees I serve on, I chair the Finance Committee, and I'll have a few more things to say about that later on in the meeting when we get to our bills and vouchers. I'm also liaison to the Youth Services and Municipal Alliance Committee. One of the big initiatives that we are taking in the new year is to do what's called a Narcan training. And what Narcan is there's somebody who's overdosing on opioids. Basically, it's a nasal spray. You spray it, and it pretty much saves their life until the paramedics can come. Kind of jolts them out of a possible coma or possible out of their overdose. Yeah. So we're looking to get Narcan training for the public early next year. And then I also serve on the library board, so make sure your library cards are up to date. Very important. And I'm also liaison to the Recreation Committee. One of the big things with recreation this week is the turkey trot this Thanksgiving morning, Thursday. If you or you know anyone that would like to volunteer, we're always looking for volunteers. I think I'm usually there about 6:45. It will be 28 degrees then, so if you'd like to help, bundle up. But it's a really good event for everyone, and we get many people to attend, and it's if you like running like me, it's I always volunteer because they need the help, but keep that in mind. That's all I have here.
Okay, before I introduce my council president, to the far left would be Councilman Mitchell. He's been excused tonight. He's recovering from some health issues. He's been on our borough council for his 19th year now, and he is very active in Scouts. You may recognize the name, Mr. Thompson Mitchell. He has all three of his sons, I believe, are Eagle Scouts as well.
Troop 83.
Troop 83. And Mr. Mitchell's been at the table here for many, many years, and I'm sure he's thinking of you tonight. The gentleman to my left is our council president. Each year on January 1st, the Borough Council votes for a president, and I'll explain very briefly. The council president is my second in command. He's like my vice, my vice president. If I'm not available, or if I have 6 places to be and I can only be in 5 of them, he goes to the other one. So, Mr. Fitz, would you kindly speak to our guests?
Thank you, Your Honor. Welcome, everyone. I'm Council President Randy Fitz. I'm liaison to the DSA, which is the Downtown Somerville Alliance. They kind of look over the downtown and our SID, and I'm also your police commissioner. My committee reports, we'll start with the DSA, and I'm happy to report that the Downtown Somerville Alliance is gearing up for one of the biggest holiday seasons yet. The season kicks off this Saturday with the annual Small Business Saturday event. We invite everyone to come out and get a head start on your holiday shopping right here in our downtown district. Take advantage of deals, discounts, and in-store events at over 40 businesses, and then stop on Division Street for some free hot cocoa provided by Fresh Tiki Bar and gift wrapping provided by the Somerville Civic League. And before you leave, stop by the Downtown Somerville Alliance table where you can submit any 2 receipts from your favorite downtown business to be entered to win a gift basket of Downtown Somerville gift cards and merchandise valued at $300. It continues. Friday, December 2nd is the annual Holiday Jubilee, where we light the tree and welcome Santa Claus. The fun starts at 5:30 with ice skating, something new that's been added to the event. There'll be an artificial ice skating rink on East Main Street with music by Bass Entertainment. And there'll be 15 artisan vendors. Skate rentals will be provided on site, and the rink will be open till 10 p.m. Finally, with DSA news, I'm proud to report that the Downtown Somerville Alliance is working with Arterial Streets. This is very important, to update our downtown streetscape. It's been many years before this has been done. Together, they're working to put together a capital plan that will lead to a complete overhaul and improvement of our streets, sidewalks, lighting, amenities, and landscaping. As part of the process, the DSA wants to hear from everyone and get your feedback on how they can enhance your downtown experience. Please attend on Thursday, December 8th at Alfonso's, right down on Main Street, for an open house and series of tabletop exercises to help them continue to enhance the downtown Somerville experience. The event is open to all members of the public, so please come out anytime between 6 and 8 p.m. I'd also like to acknowledge 4 of our police officers recognized for their outstanding service in winning the PBA Meritorious Service Award at the New Jersey State PBA Valor Award Ceremony held last Saturday evening. I would like to recognize Sergeant Tim Pasquale and Officers Alex Laura, Kevin Gilbert, and Michael Sergi. They all received the award. We salute them all for their valiant efforts in keeping our borough safe. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. All right, joining me at the table, I'd just like to introduce Jeremy Solomon, who's our borough attorney. We sometimes have questions about the law, and Jeremy is a board-certified lawyer in the state of New Jersey, and he gives us excellent legal advice. Keep us on the straight and narrow. My clerk administrator, Mr. Kevin Sluka, is a full-time employee of the borough. His office is in Borough Hall. Although my office is there, I'm not there, 6 in the morning till 8 at night like Mr. Sluka is. And he handles most of the day-to-day operations of the borough, and he's here with us at each meeting. Just very briefly on myself, I was a school teacher here in Somerville. I taught at the Vanderveer School, I taught at Lafayette School, I taught at the high school, and I taught at Central School too, before I retired in 2008. If you stick around after the meeting, you can look at all the former council pictures on the wall, and if you go back to 1995, you'll see somebody with my name. I don't look that same way today, but it's been my pleasure to have been at this council table since then, and I'm in my 4th year as mayor. Is there anyone in the audience that remembers me from school? What year? Do you remember?
I was born
'88, so I was going to Central. Vinegar was my teacher.
Okay, well, thank you for coming. You've changed a lot. You didn't have a beard in 4th grade. I just have one committee report tonight. The Courier News each year runs their official Community Choice Awards. And this came out just the other day. And in no particular order, there were 191 businesses and shops and stores recognized. 26 of them were from Somerville. So again, in no particular order, I just want to call out the award winners and ask you if your shopping needs and needs allow you to shop downtown or to visit the downtown stores and merchants this year. These are award winners by customers from all over the area that voted them the best in their category. So here we go. Savor, Blue Sheep Bake Shop, Oink and Moo, DiMartino's, Fresh Tiki Bar, Verb, Arusavai Indian Restaurant, Cafe Picasso, Utaga Hibachi and Sushi, Casa Luna Mexican Restaurant, Prima Pizza Kitchen, Sushi Yokohama, Origin French Thai Restaurant, Yestercase, the Reitman Group, Cusick's Funeral Home, Somerville Laundromat, Somerville Civic League, Gallery on Main Street, Third Child Wellness, Carousel of Flowers, ShopRite, Tapestry, Project Pub, Pop's Bike Shop, and Surf, Turf, and Earth. 26 award winners in our small half-mile strip of Main Street. A tremendous effort, a lot of work goes into running a small business, as Mr. Pitts will tell you. But 26 winners out of the nearly 200 stores listed. So if you're downtown this holiday season, stop into any one of those establishments and congratulate them, because they didn't vote for them, the council didn't vote for them, the people that use those shops and stores and businesses voted for them. So to be the best of the best, we're proud of every single shop in town. And there were another 50 or 60 that came in second and third. And if I were to read all their names, you'd never get home to do your homework. So it's a great community. It's got great places to shop, and more importantly, great people. So that's all committee reports we have for tonight. We move into a discussion period. We have 2 items that the council will discuss very briefly. We generally don't make any decisions on these items, especially for the administrator to get an idea of our thinking on certain topics, and then we'll decide where we go from there. And the first one, I'll ask Mr. Sluka to talk very briefly about best practices, what that means, and what we would have to do to make sure that Somerville is the best of the best. Mr. Sluka.
Sure. So the state of New Jersey started this program about 7 years ago, where they require every municipality that's receiving any sort of aid or income or any revenue from the state of New Jersey to review a survey that they present to us. And this year the survey had 56 questions. 31 of those questions had to deal with competency issues, core competency, and 11 related to best practices, and there were 13 questions that are unscored. Really, the state of New Jersey is trying to get a feel of your answers on those. And this is, like I said, it's been 7-8 years now. And what happens is we have to score a minimum of 24 points. Each of the questions has a point to it or half a point to it, depending on your answer to that. And it's all done. It's all performed electronically. You're required to at least get 24. If you get over 24 points, then what happens is any aid that you get from the state of New Jersey, which we do get some we don't get like the Stress City aid, but we get the aid just like every other municipality has an opportunity to get, and we receive it at 100%. Anything under 24 points, your revenue gets reduced by a portion. We've scored 32 this year out of the numbers we had to. Every year, again, a lot of stuff is repetitive, so we've already performed a lot of these issues. but they're in issues of health benefits, personnel, budget management, financial management, capital projects, shared services, cybersecurity. The new issue is going to be lead remediation. It was just passed last year, setting up a program to address lead remediation in properties and to test for that. One of the larger areas also is procurement ethics. We do have a lot of licensed individuals in the Borough Hall, and they all have to complete their standard 2-year requirements of 20 credits a year, and a lot of these subject matters. So we do fairly well in this area. So that's what that's about. It does require us to just mention it at a governing body meeting. We will post the results on the website so people can see exactly what they are. And if there's any questions related to that, but it's become pretty much a standard item each year about this time of year.
Do you remember roughly what our score was last year?
The scoring system changes every year, so it may not be comparable. For some reason, I want to say we were, I think they had to get like a 32 last year, and our number might have been in the 40s. But generally, there are certain areas that it would be difficult for a small municipality to actually get appointed, in some of the areas. So they recognize that. So for instance, there's questions on fire districts, which we're not part of. There's questions on certain funding sources that we may not have opportunities to gather. But for the most part, it provides a fair playing field for everybody to satisfy the 24 points.
And most important, I think, is if there's an area that we're short on, we know to focus on that, whether it's training our workers, or training ourselves, or being more responsive to the public as well. It's feedback. It's like a report card.
Yeah.
Is it self-assessment?
Yeah, it pretty much is, except for there could be a penalty if you self-assess poorly. But the unscored questions are exactly what the mayor says. Those are the good ones, because those are the ones that are kind of seeing where you're proficient in, and it actually gives us a little tool to try to figure out, okay, how do we get a little better in that area. So it doesn't affect us number-wise, but it certainly highlights an area that we may be able to put together more resources on.
What's important for the public to know is that the state aid replaces money that we would have to go to each taxpayer for in town. So let's say if we were to lose $1 million in state aid, well, we either have to eliminate the jobs and the positions and the services that was funding, or we would have to go back to the property owners in town and say, well, we're getting $1 million less from Trenton, we need to get $1 million more from you as an individual taxpayer. And that would be very difficult to do.
I do want to correct the record. Paige just texted me and told me it was 33 that we received.
33, well, that's even better than 32.
And I did notice it's a total of 36.5 that you can receive. Now, every question's not a point, so it could be a half a point.
Or 90% or better. But again, the important thing is to know that there is accountability. We're very serious about the job we do, because we ultimately report back to the taxpayers and the voters in town, and we want to do better. And I'm a firm believer in learning something new about yourself and about how to do a better job, and that's why we all do this. Okay, our second item, we're going to have a brief discussion on affordable housing. 2 meetings ago, we had an expert in to talk a little bit about the state of affordable housing in New Jersey, and we had some internal discussions about what we want to do next. And I think in terms of land use and moving forward into the year 2023, I think it's important for the Borough Council and the Planning Board to work together on a land use issue, because affordable housing, as with any kind of project, doesn't come to the Borough Council when you want to build something. It goes to our Planning Board or the Zoning Board of Adjustment. If you wanted to build a 4-family house on a street where only 1-family houses are allowed, you wouldn't come to the Borough Council, you wouldn't go to the Planning Board, you'd go to the Zoning Board of Adjustment, because the town is divided into different zones. And if you want to build something in a zone that's not permitted, you have the right to go to have a public hearing. You would send notices to the neighbors in the area and say, I want to put a 4-family house on this lot, and the law says I can only build a 1-family house. I want an exemption. And the applicant would be allowed to go to a public board at an open public meeting with public hear, advertised, televised, make their case to the appropriate body. And they would get a judgment, yes, you can do it, or no, you can't. And it's all done, you've heard the expression of a smoke-filled room. That's where people get together and make little secret deals. Doesn't work that way here. Everything we do, we have a public forum, we invite people to come, we encourage people to come, and the affordable housing idea for future developments that might want to come into town would want to know what our rules are going to be, how we're going to set it up, and I think that's important for the planning board and probably not the zoning board. I would think, and Jeremy, probably just the planning board would be an appropriate venue to start with to develop a plan as to what we see the future of for people that want to come and build housing of any type, whether it be affordable or market driven. Kevin, you want to jump in?
Yeah, sure. The thought process was we did have Beth McManus here a couple meetings ago. Obviously, her testimony or her presentation certainly indicated she was an expert in the field. The thought process was to work with the planning board and ask the planning board to examine an opportunity to potentially look at creating maybe set-asides and redevelopment plans, or however it may go. But it was also, the thought was to ask, to see if Kyle McManus is the name of the firm, to see if that firm had any conflict. If they didn't have any conflict, to require or request that the planning board engage that firm to serve as their expert, to look at the plans, look at the master plan, and to see if there's an opportunity to create a set-aside in development, and then bring that set-aside ordinance back to the council for consideration. That was the thought process. Obviously, there's a policy decision to be up to the council, but I know that we've, after her presentation, there's been a very active interest in making sure that there's traction on this discussion.
Does that require an ordinance?
It would require, a set-aside ordinance would require, at a point, we would have to do that. Right now, she's an expert, I'm not, and I think that you would have to do something in potentially the local ordinance to do that, but I think that would come about with her firm reviewing it with the planning board. And I envision, sometime in the first quarter of next year. And again, if their firm doesn't have a conflict, if they have a conflict, then it's something that the council may want to consider to leave at this table. But I think you need someone with some significant experience to guide you on this.
And for the benefit of the scouts, the word ordinance is a fancy word for law. And that is something that this table would decide. This is what we want. These are the rules that you have to play by. And there would be a series of steps. We couldn't just decide today to pass a law tonight. There's a process that it has to go through so that people from the public can come to the discussions, because we want to hear. I can't call everybody in town on the phone and get their opinion. So we can have a public meeting and say, okay, we're going to discuss, affordable housing. We're going to discuss the colors that you can paint your house and can't. That would fill the room if we said, we only want to have 3 colors of houses in the town. I'm not making this up, but it's exaggerated. We could say, council, do you want to have either just white houses, blue houses, or green houses, and none other? We would have a public hearing. We have about 5,000 people coming out and saying, I don't want you telling me what color to paint my house. I want to paint my house the color I want. And that's fine. There's a conversation that goes on. But in terms of the affordable housing, it's an important topic. It's being discussed. I was at the League of Municipalities in Trenton last week, and there were several sessions dedicated just to affordable housing, and not just in New Jersey, but really nationwide. So we wanna, you know, we wanna do it right, we wanna involve people that have expertise. You know, I don't know everything about everything, and I remind myself that all the time. I know a lot about government, I know an awful lot about teaching, but there are things I'm just not an expert on. And the minute you think you're an expert on everything, you become an expert on none. So I like the idea of you know, interacting with the planning board, and I'll go around the table and see what my colleagues have to
A
say.
little more in terms of the way this works, folks, is if we decide we'd like to hire, say, Beth McManus, who is an expert in affordable housing, we would craft a resolution. A resolution is the council's desire to see something done. It's sort of like a law, but it's not quite as strict in that we don't have people testify. We're simply saying, like for example, with Mr. Solomon, we would have a resolution to hire him as our borough attorney. Now, we don't have to put that out to every attorney because he has what we call an extraordinary unspecified service. He's an attorney that specializes in municipal government. He's the one we want. So with Mrs. McManus, we would do the same thing. We would decide to have a resolution that would retain her to work with the planning board to develop an affordable housing plan. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to be building a lot of houses, so I think it's important to understand. What we're interested in is what can we do as to set a framework for someone who would want to build houses in town that are a little more affordable than they are to most of the apartments. So this is really a first step. So I don't know if you understand. I mean, I think that's important to understand. And we will not make a decision now. We would then have a resolution that would come at a subsequent meeting. We'd say, okay, we want to hire this person. We want to refer it to the planning board and let the planning board make some decisions, and then they'll get back to us so we can make a final decision.
Councilwoman.
I'm very much in favor of looking at affordable housing. I've been advocating that for a couple months now. I think this would be a great start. I don't think just a set aside is enough. I think we need to look into other options for affordable housing as well, and that maybe that this firm can advise us on that as well.
Excellent. Councilman.
Councilwoman Stravik took the words right out of my mouth. You know, it's a good start. It's, in my opinion, long overdue that we finally look into this and get something done. You know, when you see rent prices go up and up and up now, housing values are very nice if you own a house, but if you rent, like, I believe it's close to half, if not over half, of Somerville. You know, it's important to know that we look out for the renters of town too, because we are all residents, and we want to keep a lot of we want to keep the renters in town as well. You know, I've seen many of friends and family have to leave town. Maybe not have to, but look for a more affordable place, which a lot of times is out of state, because this, you know, look at other towns too in the area, it is high, but you know, we're our own unit, and we can you know, look into this, and that is all I have.
Great. Councilman Crew, any comment?
I think it's important that we, again, you know, utilize our experts. Wow, it's a long day. That we that we utilize our experts and that we get the right information. I think that that's always the key way to do things. I think an informed decision is the best kind of decision. You know, everybody wants things yesterday, and we understand that as a council, but on the same token, we have to make sure on our end, and I think Mr. Mayor said it a few times tonight, that we're thorough in our process. And so I know everyone wants a quick turnaround on this, but please understand, as has been said, these are the steps that we have to take to make sure that it's done properly. The last thing we want is we put something forth and then it's contestable, and we don't want that to be the case. We want it to be thought through. We want our boards on board with us, planning board on board, so that way going forward we know, and developers as Councilman Brady was saying, that developers are on board as well, and they know when they come in what to expect. So this is, as was stated, a good start, and I'm looking forward to, if we can, continuing working with the firm, because it was very informative, and we really appreciated that process. Thank you.
Mr. President, any comment?
I'm looking forward to moving this ahead.
Okay. Kevin, what do you think the first step would be? Chairman, you should talk to the planning board attorney and.
I can do that. The first thing is, of course, we would want to find out if there's a conflict, and then, so we wouldn't necessarily focus on them if they were
Just
not.
again, for the scouts, a conflict of interest occurs if a company is doing business with the town, but that business could benefit them specifically, which you're not allowed to do. For instance, in my case, when I was teaching school here, if something came to the council that involved a decision that would affect the schools, since I was working for the schools, I could not vote on that item. And just as a quick example, we used to pay the marching band to march in parades. And my kids were in the band, and I'm a teacher there. Now, is that a big deal, the $100 we paid the band? No. But someone in the public could say, yeah, he voted to give the schools money because he works there, or his kids are in the band. So I just decided on my own, that was something I should say, I have a conflict, I'm not comfortable voting for this, so I didn't. Law firms, engineering firms, planning firms, electricians, if they're working for the town, they're paid by the town, they shouldn't be involved in making the rules that they have to live by. So we have to be very careful that we hire a company that can help us make a decision. Because we don't want one of those smoke-filled room decisions. So government sometimes takes a while, but if we do it wrong, we have not served the public, and we could wind up in court and have a fine or a judgment that undoes all the work that we tried to do. So, we don't come up with something today, vote on it today, and it becomes law tomorrow. It's government is designed to move carefully, slowly. Sometimes people say too slowly, but we take our job seriously and want to do it right. So what we'll do now, we have our open public meeting session, and this will be a time for anyone from the public to come up to the microphone, introduce themselves, name and address, and can talk about a question they may have for us, a comment they may want to have. And I first need a motion from the council to open it to the public.
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Council members Graham Brady,
Yes.
Gina Stravic.
Yes.
Roger Vroom.
Yes.
Fred Weed.
Yes.
Randy Pitts.
Yes.
All right, the public session is open, and I will ask first if any scout would like to make a comment. This is your one chance, scouts. Okay. Anyone to my right would like to come up and have a question or comment? You may come up now. Come on up, sir.
My name is Anthony Clark. I'm 49 3rd Street. Just got a question about a letter I received in the mail about the permit parking.
Yes, sir.
And I'm trying to figure out, like, is this gonna affect, like, our guests that come in from out of town, holidays or whatever, when they get tickets if they don't have a permit on their cars?
All right, I'll let my administrator handle that, because we just passed this ordinance at the last meeting.
Sure. Well, the letter is in the permit forms just went out. I assume that's what you received.
Right.
Each of the vehicles at that location, that's registered at that location, gets a parking permit.
I mean, like, out-of-state guests that
Yeah,
come in.
and then you also receive 2 guest hang tags,
Okay.
which requires you to manage that. So obviously, if your guest from out of town, you need to make sure you get that back from your out of town guest so you can give it to another guest. You do get 2 of those with that.
So we get 2 regular and 2 guest bags.
No, you get for every vehicle that's registered there.
Okay, well,
Whether
for
it's
every
more,
vehicle,
yeah,
okay.
whether it's 1 or 4, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you get 2 regular passes. So what's going to happen is the governing body passed that ordinance 2 meetings ago, or a meeting ago. We just sent out those letters, which had to be hitting mailboxes within the last couple of days. We will go through another round of that. It's very likely we start that enforcement after the new year. So there'll be about an entire month, so it gives you an opportunity to come in and get those passes.
So we have the passes, we have to come in and get them.
Correct, because it's, well, you can do it online. We did set up a system online, but it requires you to have a scanner because there's documents that you're gonna have to prove that go with that household, right? So registration and so forth. So if you have that ability, you can do it online. We did set it up online as well.
Could
on our
you
website.
not take a picture of the documents and email them? As well?
You could probably do that. You'd be emailing it to me though, so
It'd just be easier.
we're trying to
just
keep
come
everything
in
together.
and-
Yeah, we're
and
trying to
go
keep it
through
all
this
together.
Instead of trying to do all that, it'd be easier just to come in and go through this thing.
Yes.
Trying to email, the mail and everything. And this is the only question I have right now.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody else?
All right, last chance for the right side of the room. Mrs. Freeman.
Good evening. My name is Geraldine Freeman.
And if you would, Mrs. Freeman, introduce yourself
I
when you used to sit here for our scouts, so
I
that
was
they have a
on
context.
on the council, and I was a police commissioner and second on fire commissioner and a policewoman. And we did talk about affordable housing, and this, I've been gone from here over 25 years. I know things are slow, but come on, that is very slow about affordable housing. You got all of these buildings coming in right now. There is not one affordable housing with any of these buildings that they are building. Now that the cat is out the bag, now you want to put them back in the bag and say, oh, we want affordable housing. It should have been a long time ago. It's like everything is expensive now. You got grocery expenses. Everything is going up. And then people still have to work, and some of them are working for the same amount of money they started with, or they don't get raises like they should. But then you can put up these big apartment houses, and you're trying to push people out of Somerville, just push them out, and get other people come in to live here. We've been here, I grew up here. I can't even afford to live here. The apartments that the condos, that whatever they're building. This is totally ridiculous that you have to wait all this long to get affordable housing. When I was on council, we talked about, affordable housing. But the next council came in, and I don't know how long you have been here with them putting up all of these things, and you voted it down. Just let them go ahead and build over where Baker and Taylor used to be. Now they're gonna build there. Is there gonna be any affordable houses there? Get it together, because you got a lot of people that you are touching that cannot afford to pay the amount that they want. $2,500 for one bedroom, that's ridiculous. You don't pay that much on your mortgage. And if they've been paying taxes ever since they've been here in town, grew up here in town, still paying taxes and can't afford to leave here. People are moving out of here and going to Pennsylvania because of the prices that you have here. You got people coming in from New York, which is good. They can come here because it's all, and you see, New Jersey is expensive. Starting from right by New York, all the way down, wherever the railroad tracks are, you got all of these high-rise, expensive places to live. People have to pay their mortgage, they have to pay their rent, they gotta buy groceries, they got children in school that need clothes to go to school, and it's you're just piling everything up. You know what? What goes up must come down, and I hope it comes down soon.
you very much.
Anyone else? Mr. Garcia.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor. I'm Taylor Garcia, 171 Mercer. In light of the Thanksgiving holiday, I do want to thank you, Mr. Mayor, and Town Council for having been a receptive form of government to many public comments. I've been here over many months making comments on several issues. Of course, one issue that is very close and personal to me is also the issue of affordable housing. I applaud the council for continuing the conversation, and I hope that, Mr. Mayor, your mayorship and the council realizes the sentiment and the fervor amongst the town that even though there may be only a few people that come to these public forums, it's still good principles of governance to care for those that are most vulnerable in the society. And we want to welcome all folks in this town and not push out the folks who have been here traditionally, which often tend to be folks of the Black and brown communities, and their properties might get taken up or built over for more expensive housing. And I agree with the previous speaker that this is an issue that long predates this current body. And while I understand that there may be some tepidness or some timidity to move forward under the guise of good governance and good prudence, we must also act swiftly in the name of the people and to make sure that we do things reasonably and responsibly. I'd like to just reiterate a comment that a councilwoman made during a previous part of the meeting, in which he said that there were other ideas mentioned and that we could explore further ideas. I'm very delighted to hear that this body is listening to set-asides, but of course, when the speaker was here, Ms. Mary, I don't believe that you were in attendance at that meeting, but certainly maybe you saw the recording of it. She presented many more options, including rent increase limitations and other creative solutions that we can have. The issue is that people are paying too much money for rent, often more than what a mortgage payment is, and that is a reality. Another reality is that most of the people in this town are renters. And I don't want to live in a town where the governing body says, well, if you can't afford it, move to Pennsylvania. No. This is a town people want to stay. This is a town built by people who developed roots for many generations. And they should afford and still be able to live comfortably in Somerville. It's been a town that's welcomed all sorts of folks. And as a previous speaker did mention, she raises a good point. All of these apartment buildings went up, and how many of them were set aside for affordable housing? How many new developments are being built now or will be built, and how many of those have any affordable housing as set aside? I don't think the answer is very high at all. It might even be zero. So I reiterate that issue, and I couch it in this message of gratitude also because I also know that it's not easy to manage and run a town. I'd also like to take a moment to recognize all of the service that this body does, including yourself, Mr. Mayor, and those in this building, as well as Mr. Solomon and Mr. Sluka, because it's not easy running the day-to-day of the town. And as a member of the public, I'm very delighted to see that there are people who do take concern and are working. And so I do also express my heartfelt gratitude for the service that you provide to this town, and I mean that sincerely. I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. I would be remiss in not introducing Mr. Garcia, as hopefully by the 26th of this month, he will be certified as a school board member. He was the one of the top vote getters in last week's election. He's a graduate of Somerville High School and has moved back to town. And after the 26th, I can officially congratulate you, but the numbers that I've seen unofficially look very good. So I look forward to having Mr. Garcia as an elected official as well. Well done.
Thank you very much.
The top vote getter.
As of this morning, yes, he was. All right, before I close the public session, I put a challenge out to the scouts before, in terms of how much money it takes to run the town of Somerville. I'll give you a hint. The school board budget to run the schools in town is approximately $42 million.
About $42 million.
So I'm gonna ask, do we have any brave scouts who would like to give an estimate? And there's no prize and there's no detention. So give me three, I want 3 scouts to give me a guess, and then we'll give you the exact amount. Can I get a volunteer? And Scoutmasters, please note who volunteers for my challenge. I want 3 guesstimates. Again, if you don't volunteer, I'll have your Scoutmaster volunteer. We have 1 brave soul in the back. 2. 3. Good. Name and address. Take your best guess, and we'll see who's our prize winner.
My name is Gabriel Gonzalez. I live in Bridgewater, 18 Mangrove Avenue.
Welcome to Somerville.
My guess would be somewhere around 700 million.
All right?
Hello, my name is Patrick Walsh, 300 Rolling Mills Way in Bridgewater, and my guess is 450 million.
My name is Soham Shiri and I'm 23 Stapleton Court of Bridgewater, New Jersey, and my guess is 650 million.
Thank you for volunteering. I'm going to say something that I probably have never said in my career. I'm speechless.
No, it's not what.
Can we, hold on, can we remember what you guys did to do that?
You can brag that you made the mayor speechless. And I've never been accused of that in my life.
Put that on my wall.
Mr. Brady, as Mr. Weed, as finance chairman, approximately what is the borough budget?
So when I first started in 2018, it was approximately a little over 20 million. Now it's about 28, 29 million.
Yeah, I would say that.
Yeah, we're not quite 30 million. So I'll tell you what. Someday I sure hope we can get into the trickle of millions, but I'll explain a little bit more during bills and vouchers. But we're a little under 30 million. That's just the borough budget. You know, school does not include. The schools are completely separate. This would include something like you know, our employee salaries, the police, you know, public safety, garbage pickup, you know, all sorts of services. So that's what that is.
It's about $11,000 from each house. About. Some are more, some are less, but that's about what it is. So divide 30 million by 365 and you can figure out how much it costs per day. And in the hour we've been here, it's probably a couple $100,000. So thank you for your bravery, Scouts. You're a little high in your estimates, but you made me speak.
Yes, I think what they were doing is their estimate was going to be when they get to be our age and they're sitting at this table.
It could very well happen.
I was thinking about the school budget added in here.
It's about 70 million between the two.
Oh.
So it's good things are worth paying for. And those of us that live in Somerville think we have a good community. So thank you, Scouts, for your bravery. Before I close the public, last call.
Move to close.
Motion to close.
Move to close.
So move.
Council members Granville Brady.
Yes.
Gina Stravic.
Yes.
Roger Vroom.
Yes.
Fred Weed.
Yes.
Randy Pitts.
Yes.
Scouts, you may notice I haven't been voting on things, and I'm remiss in reminding you. The way our form of government is set up, it's mayor and council. It's called weak mayor, strong council. It's not a test of strength, but it's the way our government is set up. The mayor is the head of the table, but I only vote if there's a tie. And tonight, with an odd number of people, Mr. Mitchell being absent, the possibility of a 3-3 tie doesn't exist. So I would only get to vote if the council was deadlocked on an issue. And with 5 is not divisible by 2. So there's no way I would get to vote tonight.
Unless someone abstains.
Unless somebody abstains, right? But we probably wouldn't have that. All right, our next section is the consent resolutions. In the agenda, there are some business items. People retire, we read their name into the record. We have some contracts that we sign. And what I'll do is I'll ask if the council has any resolution they wish to discuss. It's a consent resolution, which means they've read them in advance and they agree that these can be voted on tonight. But there may be a question on one or more, and
Mayor, I call your attention to number 348 in the agenda. It looks like there's some run-on language.
yes,
So you just cross that
yeah,
out
okay. No,
after the dollar figure.
that's right. Council, anything that you wish to quote?
Yes, Your Honor,
Yeah.
I'd like to vote separately on resolution 351.
Okay. All right, I'll summarize the resolutions as they're before us. 342, are revisions to administrative plan for our housing agency. 343 is a firefighter grant from American Rescue Funds from Washington. 344, approving free parking in lots 1, 2, 4, and 6 from Thanksgiving through New Year's Day for holiday activities. 345 is a reduction of a performance bond for Somerville transit-oriented development. 346 is a change order for the Davenport and Mercer Street curb ramp and apron replacements, reducing the amount by $15,950. 347 is awarding a contract for a new truck. 348 is awarding a contract again for another truck. And if you would strike after the amount of 157,141, is a typo in the following sentence, so they just strike that from the record. 349, as Mr. Pitson announced before, the holiday jubilee on December 2nd from 5 to 10 p.m. 350 is approving a Chapter 159 Department of Homeland Security federal grant. 352 is returning an escrow account from Station House application on 44 Veterans Memorial Drive. And I have a motion for those resolutions as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Council members Granville Brady,
Yes?
Gina Stravic,
Yes.
Roger Vroom,
Yes.
Fred Weed,
Yes.
Randy Pitts.
Yes.
All right, resolution 351 was requested to be discussed separately. Approving Jeremy Susser to join the Somerville Fire Department. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Brady?
Yeah, I met with Jeremy and the two chiefs, Rodriguez and Snightley, the fire department, and Councilman Room was there. The budget meeting on Friday, I found Jeremy to be an extremely knowledgeable guy. I think he knows a great deal about firefighting. He brings a lot of experience to the table, and Roger, you could correct me if I'm wrong, he seems to be a very well qualified fellow. I would highly recommend him as being certainly one of the, a very good person, and I highly recommend him.
All right, roll call.
Council members Granville Brady,
Yes?
Gina Stravic,
Yes.
Roger Vroom,
Yes.
Fred Weed,
Yes.
Randy Pitts.
Yes.
All right, next section of our agenda is bills and vouchers. This is paying bills on a 2-week cycle from our last meeting, and I'll turn it over to our finance chairman, Councilman Reed.
Yeah, real quick, before I make the motion, I will just make a few comments. This is the part I alluded to earlier. Every 2 weeks, for every meeting, what we have to do is the borough encumbers, has to pay, employee salary, health benefits, anything and everything, and what I do is, for every meeting, usually I come in on Saturday and I just sit at Borough Hall. It takes about a half hour. I go through each bill and voucher. It's literally, depending on what, it could be a little stack, it could be a big stack, but go through each and every one and look, and double check, make sure everything's in good working order. Every once in a while I have a question for our administrator or CFO. Just to explain, what's going on, or if I think it looks a little funny looking, and then the final authority is the council to approve them. And what we could do here is we could 99% of the time we approve the bills and vouchers, and there are no problems because we all know our departments very well. However, every once in a while we say, we want to pay all these bills and vouchers, except this one, we want to review it. So it has to come through the Borough Council before they can actually be paid and, all taken care of. So it could be, reimbursement for costs, police uniforms, anything you think the borough needs, that's what we pay for. And it can get lonely on a Saturday at Borough Hall, but it is very much worth it to make sure that everything's in good working order. And our administration, especially led by our CFO, Paige Elster, runs a tight ship and a good ship, and there's almost never any time that there's an issue.
Let me add something.
And as my vice chair,
Councilman Reed takes on a tremendous responsibility because money's involved, okay? And you guys have to understand when money's involved, there's always the potential for something to go wrong. and I don't mean that somebody's stealing it, but there could be mistakes. When Councilman Weed signs a voucher, he's signing that that funds is appropriate for the rest of us, because we don't all look at them. He's the only one. So if he makes a mistake, it's probably not good, all right? And he has a tremendous liability to make sure the job is done correctly. So anyone who chairs the finance committee has that responsibility to make sure the funds are available. The other person is a woman named Paige Elster, who's our finance officer. She has to tell Mr. Weed, Councilman Weed, that there's money to pay the bills. Because if there's not money to pay the bills, they'll arrest us. Am I right?
That's why we have our attorney here.
And then Jeremy sits over there and simply smiles and goes, "Good luck, guys."
And comes up with bail money.
It's a system of checks and balances, right?
Yes.
So you gonna make that?
So how much are we spending? in these
So,
2
we
weeks?
guys spend.
With all of that, I move to pay the payment of bills and vouchers, $8,657,782.51.
I'll second that motion.
Council members, Granville Brady,
Yes.
Gina Stravic,
Yes.
Roger Vroom,
Yes.
Fred Weed,
Yes.
Randy Pitts.
Yes.
All right, before I call for an adjournment, just some quick remarks from myself. Starting our holiday season this week with Thanksgiving, and then traditional religious and ethnic holidays that are coming forward. And I just want to thank everybody in our community for making Somerville the community that we have. Big thanks to our first responders. Big thanks to our police department, to the medical workers at our medical center, to the merchants and shopkeepers in town, to the parents of our school-age kids, to our teachers. The list goes on and on and on about people we can thank. And as we move into the holiday season, I would ask each of you to remember who you're thankful for and what you're thankful for. And in the spirit of the holidays, to reach out to people that may not have as much to be thankful for as you. There are many clothing drives going on right now, food drives, toy drives, opportunities to volunteer. You don't have to give someone money to make a contribution to the town. There's ample opportunity to step forward. I mentioned the woman that I honored at the beginning of our meeting that volunteered 3,500 hours to the medical center. That's an hour a day for 3,000 days. That's like 10 years. I mean, there's always something you can do for our community. And I want to thank our scouts specifically for coming tonight, because you do a lot for our community as well. So to those of you in the audience, those watching the stream at home, let's be thankful for each other, thankful for our community. And I'll have more to say on the Borough website later in the week. But for now, I usually call on our senior person at the table to make a motion for adjournment. Councilman Mitchell is not with us tonight, but in his place, I'll ask Mr. Brady if he would make the motion to adjourn.
Just real quick, by most senior member, he means the person with the most years of experience on the council.
Yes, I am the most senior member because I'll be 78 years old next month, okay? So just keep that in mind, guys.
You can find Mr. Brady's picture on the wall when you leave tonight.
And usually at this hour, I'm about ready for bed, so I move to adjourn the meeting.
I will second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Meeting adjourned. See you in 2 weeks. Thank you, Scott.
Nobody.